Dear Dumb Diary, can adults become human? This diary property of Jamie Kelly. Score McGraw Middle School. Locker 101. Favorite teacher Miss Anderson. Favorite animal koala. Also dogs, but not smelly ones. Most hated candy of all time. Butterscotch hard candies. A decent human being would never read another person's diary. Only a total beast would do something like that. Dear whoever is reading my dumb diary, are you sure you're supposed to be reading someone else's diary? Maybe I told you that you could, so that's okay. But if you're Angeline, I did not give you permission, so stop it. If you're my parents, then yes. I know I am not allowed to call people idiots and dopes or to talk about gross bodily functions and all that, but this is a diary, and I didn't actually say any of it. I wrote it. And if you punish me for it, then I will know that you read my diary, which I am not giving you permission to do. Now, by the power vested in me, I do promise that everything in this diary is true, or at least as true as I think it needs to be. Signed, Jamie Kelly. P.S. What kind of animal reads a person's diary anyway? P.P.S. Oh, I bet you know. I bet it's one of those big dirty animals that eventually ends up on the bun with mustard and onions. Hint, hint. And let's not forget what curiosity did to the cat. Monday 2nd. Dear Dumb Diary, teachers don't fart. I spend something like 8 months a year, 7 hours a day with teachers. If they did, I know it. Moms do it, dads do it, B-girls do it, sometimes so bad that your eyes burn and your lungs might try to escape by jumping out of your mouth. Even I do it. One time I had a fart that lasted so long that around the middle of the fart I was thinking back to when the fart began. Anyway, I was thinking about teachers and their intestinal gas today in school, and that may have prevented me from learning anything. Maybe the teachers just need to try harder to teach me things, that is, not to cut one. Seriously though, it's hard for me to blame teachers. It's probably pretty tough to stand up in front of the normal human beings and try to convince us that the equator is interesting, or that the clothes that the people in where the Hekistan wear are beautiful. Fashions in other countries sometimes appear to be based on one person daring another person to wear something in public. Fortunately, I do have one teacher who I always like, Miss Anderson, my art teacher. She's my BTF, which is like the BFF, but it's for teachers. She's pretty enough to be a waitress, and she notices important things, like when I create my own private glitter blends. Currently, I'm using a secret mixture of gold, red, and magenta, pretty much magnificent. Art class would be perfect if Angeline, Miss Blondie Blondewed, wasn't in it. Angeline is not an artist, and when she stands next to something, she has a way of making it look less pretty by comparison, which, when you think about it, is a norm of vandalism that sadly our legal system has not penalty for yet. See, she made the Mona Lisa into some weird old lady with no eyebrows. Oh, and Mom finally got me those shoes I wanted. Dad, being a dude, only has like 2 pairs of shoes and can't fully appreciate how much you can need a pair of shoes that you don't need at all. Mom is totally immune to my begging for most things, but since she's a girl, or used to be one, she has way too many shoes and sympathizes with other females who also want too many shoes. Anyway, they make me look 20 or something. Dad's huge shoe assortment. 1. The pair he wears to work every day. 2. The pair he would wear to shovel burning manure in the rain. Tuesday 3rd. Dear Dumb Diary. My social studies teacher, Mr. Van Doy, never smiles. I know that's hard to believe because everybody smiles about something, right? Isabella smiles when her brothers get in trouble. Angeline smiles when she thinks about how much prettier she is than, like a waterfall or a unicorn. I smile when I think about a unicorn kicking Angeline over a waterfall. But Mr. Van Doy doesn't smile at all. I wonder if when you become an adult, you can lose your sense of humor the way you lose our teeth or hair or fashion sense. Our social studies class is studying animal social groups now, which means we are learning how ants and chimps and birds live together and tolerate one another. Personally, I hate ants so much that even if I was an ant, I don't think I could resist stomping on myself. Isabella says we can do our homework just by watching the educational channels. Although it seems like every time I turn those on, they're showing the footage of the cheetah running down the cute little antelope and not the stuff we need for class. Isabella says that if she had been born a cute little antelope instead of cheetah coming, she would just kick another cute little antelope in the shins so it couldn't run very fast, and the cheetah would get it instead of her. Pretty smart, huh? Except I'm pretty sure that if Isabella has been born a little cute antelope, all the cute little antelopes in Africa would be hunting and eating cheetahs by now. And as well as elephants and human beings. I really and truly think we are thankful often enough that Isabella was not born a cute little antelope. On the subject of Isabella, I noticed her notice my new shoes today, and I'm sure I noticed her noticing how they make me look 20. But I also noticed her trying not to be noticed. So I did the polite thing and unnoticed her for doing it, because that's what friends do. Me pretending to read a magazine to prove I don't notice her. Notice. Dumb Diary, did I ever tell you how Isabella and I became friends? It was instantaneous. It's what people call like at first sight. It was way back in 2nd grade. On the first day of school, our teacher, Miss Baker, was asking us all to stand up by saying and say our names. Isabella stood and said, "I'm Isabella Vincella," and Louis Clark giggled. It took 3 teachers and half the class to put Isabella off Louis, who she seemed to be playing like a fat little xylophone. He actually made higher notes than she punched him in certain places. Violence is never the answer, of course, unless your question is, "Hey Isabella, what's the answer?" But I admire the fact that she was like some sort of dangerous little mousetrap that you just should not stick your finger in. I told her so, and she liked the description. We became instant friends and have been that way ever since. Although sometimes Isabella seems less like a mousetrap and more like an atomic bomb that you should not stick your fingers in. Wednesday 4th. Dear Diary, today in art class, Miss Anderson asked us to give her ideas for our next assignment. I suggested that we make self-portraits with a lot of glitter and jewels. Angeline suggested collage. Isabella suggested that we decorate padlocks to put on our bedroom doors so our brothers can't get in on stuff. Although her judgment is usually excellent, this time Miss Anderson went with Angeline's suggestion of college. I suspect this was because of some kind of law that says she has to offer a certain number of projects to artistically impaired each year, since not everybody in the world has what it takes to grow up to be an important artist like I might become if I decided not to be a scientist to also make a lot of money dancing on TV. Our teachers occasionally must offer projects that the kids who were born with toes for fingers can do. Like college. A college is when you cut things out of a magazine and glue them onto a piece of paper. These are not terribly challenging projects to complete. Once on a field trip to a petting zoo, I saw this goat that had eaten a newspaper and some cotton candy, and he had made his own little college all over the barnyard. Really quite amazing work for a goat. I would have got one too, except that the teacher caught me putting some goat art in my lunchbox. These college projects wouldn't be so bad if Miss Anderson subscribed to a variety of magazines, but most of the older magazines she bring in have headlines like cooking smart meals. Her one is not necessarily sad or hey, maybe dogs are better than husbands. She also has a lot of bride magazines, but somebody had blacked out the teeth or drawn arrows through the heads of the most pictures, which makes them useless unless they're a college about a kid that lives near a church and really likes archery but has super bad aim. Isabella says the magazine means that Miss Anderson is totally desperate to get a husband, which is odd because she is even more beautiful than Mrs. LaBear in the street, who has already had 5 or 6 husbands by now. Isabella says that it means that Miss Anderson must do something so bad that it weighs out her Hopefully, Isabella has the rations all worked out. Isabella said that Miss Anderson is pretty enough to eat salad for breakfast, let's say, but not pretty enough to brush her teeth with ketchup. Isabella also said that Angelina is pretty enough to brush her teeth with mustard, but not pretty enough to burn down Seaward. Isabella said that she herself is pretty enough to put mayonnaise on her popcorn, but not pretty enough to burn down SeaWorld unless Angelina and Miss Anderson helps her. Isabella says that I'm pretty enough to be an exhibit at SeaWorld. I suspect she is jealous of my shoes. I'm telling you that they made me look 20 or something. I'm sure she meant a manatee. There was a time when I would not have known how to react to something like that from Isabella, but after being her friend all these years, it was perfectly clear to me what I had to do. After that, Isabella spent most of that afternoon trying to remove the picture of toothless, arrow-headed bride that I glued to her hair. Guess that make us even. I'm not sure how she finally got it out, but knowing Isabella, it could have been anything. Thursday 5th. Dear Dumb Diary. Okay, it turns out that you can't exactly get even with Isabella. I had forgotten about the time one of her mean older brothers ate a chocolate bar that she had been saving, and she snuck into his room that night and quietly put an earthworm in his sleeping mouth and then tapped it shut. One can hardly imagine his panic. Now her brother gets a little sick every time he sees candy. That is what Isabella calls even. While it is true that earthworming was over chocolate and Isabella had a huge chocolate dependency problem, Isabella can bring it. As she likes to say, even when it's not about chocolates. So first things this morning, she brought it to me, and I was called to go down to the office. But let's be reasonable about placing blame her. Yes, Isabella tore on me for gluing something to her, but the college thing was Angeline's idea in the first place, so she really is mostly to blame for this. I believe that there are scores with nice office ladies that are pretty and don't smell like discount coffee and butterscotch candies. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me to learn that all other scores are like that. Just not my score. Now, to be fair, it's not just the office ladies. Many adults have a need to drink coffee all day so that they can remain alert and having bad breath. But the candy is the different story. Our office lady being mean, especially to me, and away a huge fishbone of butterscotch bread. Here's why. Every time they look at the board, the office ladies think, "You could have brought good candy. We hate these hard butterscotch candies. Butterscotch candies aren't good for anything. I think we should take it out on the next kid who walks in here." And that kid is usually me. I wonder if every school has a cardinal in the office. Isabella had told it on the assistant principal, Dayeon, who wears ties but is nice anyway. He said I could glue things in people's hair and blah blah. Be kind to each other and blah blah. What kind of the world would this be if blah blah blah? He was just getting ready to come up with some sort of punishment, and I asked him what happened to his glasses. He used to have these huge glasses he could probably see monoculars with, and he said that his niece talked him into getting eye surgery so he wouldn't need them anymore, which I have to admit was a pretty good idea, because without his glasses he looked almost handsome for an older guy. He's probably 40. Not that I am an expert on Isabella's newest good-looking enough formula, but I suppose that he is still not handsome enough to burn down C-word. Though he is probably handsome enough to, let's say, step right on a fish. Assistant Principal Dayeon slid his sword glasses across the desk to me and asked if I wanted to try them on, which I did. But at that exact moment, one of the mean office ladies walked into his office, and I turned around and saw pure ugliness, magnified a million jillion times. I screamed a little. Pure ugly was just never meant to be magnified that much. I guess my scream startled the office lady enough to send her stumbling backwards into the counter and knock over the big bowl of butterscotch candies with her clunky old shoes. Her legs went right out from underneath her and her hip made a popping sound loud enough to be heard over my laughter. Someone called 911. The assistant principal, Dayeon, sent me back to class, and when I went, I could hardly believe that there was a time when I thought these butterscotch candies was good for anything. Friday 6th. Dear Diary, Isabella apologized for telling on me, and I apologized for gluing a picture to her head. Isabella's apology went something like this. It's your own fault, Jamie. You know how I roar when I come to getting even. Not exactly the kind of thing you read inside a greeting card, I guess. But that Isabella, and that's how she roars. One of these days, I'm going to get away roar. Also, our mom just started another diet, which means Isabella's whorehouse has to go on a diet because that's how her mom's stomach roars. Because that's how her mom's stomach roars when it comes to her mom's stomach roars. And when Isabella has a sudden reduction in sugar intake, she's not her normal pleasant self. I got high fives for attacking the mean office lady. Of course, I didn't really attack anybody. I would never attack anybody who wasn't blonde and Angeline. But when a school travels through a middle school, it gets split up every time somebody tells somebody else. Like this one time when there was a rumor going around that Angeline was the prettiest girl in the state, which was totally wrong because somebody prettier could have been flying over the state in an airplane, and when you fly over a state, technically you're in the state. So Angeline was not necessarily the prettiest. For the couple of hours, I felt kind of bad about the injured mean office lady, so he stopped by the office and asked Mr. Dayeon how she was. He asked she broke her hip and would be retiring. I guess the office ladies place a lot of importance on hips, since they seem to be having some sort of a constant contest to grow the biggest pair. Office chairs just for our office ladies, designed just for our office ladies. The butterscotch candies were gone, and Mr. Dayeon didn't punish me for gluing Isabella's hair, so I guess that means I am pretty enough to break a mean office lady's hip if a handsome-ish assistant principal and the second prettiest girl in the state help me do it. Let's face it, Angeline's college thing was the reason I was in the office in the first place. Angeline suggested college, which made me glue the picture to Isabella, which made Isabella tell on me, which made the assistant principal lend me his glasses, which made the office lady scare me, which made me scream out loud enough to cause a hip accident. See, Angeline's fault, kind of. And Angeline, whose entire life is one continuous walk down the runway, managed to find time to say, "Good job, wonderful office lady Jamie. Couldn't have come at a better time. Let's hope a replacement is pretty." Which, now that I think of it, is sort of weird, because why would Angeline care? Unless she is planning, as I have always suspected, to do away with us all, one at a time, and replace us with more attractive versions of ourselves. And now she have made me an accomplice in her sinister plan. Replacement me, she's probably take my shoes. Here, the thing about Angeline. I know that she shouldn't really bother me that much. I mean, Angeline has even done nice things for me in the past, although I have come to believe that these were probably accidental. That's just something so infuriating about perfect people. When she's nice, it makes me mad. When she's pretty, it makes me mad. It never changes. I guess the only good thing about Angeline is that she can never bother me more than she does right now. Perfect people make me pretty perfectly. Hey, maybe that's how I roll. Angeline making me mad, Angeline making me enraged, Angeline making me mental, Angeline making me bananas, Angeline making me rabies. Aunt Carol called while we were eating tonight, which ticked Mom off a little, since she had spent all afternoon reading dinner. But then she started talking to her and got all excited because Aunt Carol is going to be staying with us for a while. She's planning on moving to the area. Mom hardly even noticed it when Dad and I carefully concealed the uneaten portion of the meal with cleverly draped napkins and snuck them right past her into the garbage. Mom's cooking makes crafty napkin drops an essential survival skill around her. The rose blossom useful to conceal one deadly lump of grossness within it. The tent, good for hiding a more massive, icky object. The bandito, useful to conceal your identity as you sneak away from the table. And Aunt Kara is my mom's younger sister, so when I look at her, I think I can imagine my mom before she became afflicted with momness. Or because, would that be the momitis? Anyway, there's no cure. Aunt Kara is single, so her wardrobe is similar to clothes my old Barbies used to have. Expected Aunt Kara doesn't spend as much time up on her tiptoes. I love my mom, of course, and if she was anything like Aunt Kara, I probably would have liked her before she became an adult. But as you know, Dumb Diary, adults are very hard to like, except for people in the entertainment business, with the exception of clowns, who may be the hardest of all. Some of the worst types of adults. Grouchy or the mean-turd guy. Lady who thinks she's better than everybody. I hate that kind of person too. Clowns with dirty clothes. Clown's friend is also a clown. Saturday 7th. Dear Dumb Diary, Isabella came over today. We had a little mini project to do for social studies. Our teacher, Mr. Van Doy, who never smiles, told us to try to find social behavior in people that was similar to the social behavior in animals. Isabella does not usually volunteer to kill a Saturday by coming over to do homework, but there's still no sweet in her house, and we're always pretty well stocked with junk. Mr. Vando showed us a video last week with chimpanzees, and he told us about all the complicated ways they communicate, but after seeing a bunch of monkeys on the educational channels, I really think that most communication between monkeys is just them saying, "Dude, what's wrong with your butt? Did you back into a fan or something? Did you just sit down in a stove? Do you need to go to a hospital? There's something wrong with your butt." Once we started talking about it, I started seeing lots of ways that adults are like animals. My dad goes to an office every day, and the building is like a beehive where the animal adults scurry around and make honey and make to do what the queen bee says. Although in my dad's case, the queen is a man bee. And they don't make honey, they make accounting. My mom is sort of like the lioness that powers the grasslands, instinctively hunting a microwavable zebra for her family because it takes too long to prepare a real zebra. And Isabella, and this is where it broke down from us. We couldn't see how adults were like animals. But we really couldn't find any examples of how we were like animals. Isabella says that science believes that adults might have actually be human beings. But the more we talked about it, the brighter she seemed. They are large and grossly hairy. When they sing along to their favorite songs, many sound like a hawk being dragged by its tail. They are capable of doing mindless activities for hours on end. Yeah. After exercising, many acquire an interesting camel-like fragrance. They just can't seem to resist slobbering all over you. Sunday 8. Dear Diary, hooray! And Carol came today. This really threw Dad's Sunday off because he has a lot of important things to do on Sunday, like dress a slob and halfway complete a project around the house. But he always manages to look presentable when Mom's relatives come over, although he often looks like something itches. Dad trying not to think about how much he'd rather be in sweatpants. Technically, Aunt Carol is an adult relative, and normally this would be a big problem since most of the conversations with adult relatives sound like this. Older relative, so how's school? Me? Fine. Old relative, and how's soccer going? Me? Fine. If I explain that I've never played soccer, it will just lead to extra questions. So, how do you like all this rain we're having? I don't know. But Aunt Carol is a bit more fun. Aunt Carol, so how's school going? Fine. Aunt Carol, are any of the kids really gross? Mom, stop it, Carol. Me, Angelina is gross. Mom, Jamie! Aunt Carol, did you know your mom wet her pants once at school? Mom, don't listen to her, Jamie. She's taken her allergy medicine and she doesn't know what she's saying. Whisper something really angry at Aunt Carol. Aunt Carol, geez, okay, drop it. Jamie, how do you like all of this rain we're having? I don't know. Aunt Carol, I bet your mom hates it. It could get her pants wet. This is the point at which Mom throws something at Aunt Carol and the conversation is pretty much over. It's really hard not to like somebody that can make your mom throw a pillow. It's because they're sisters. Mom says that nobody, anywhere, can ever make you crazy like a relative. Not a friend, not an enemy, nobody. It's like my one dirty, smart cousin with a strawberry allergy, who is big, wet, a firth, and a dope. He drives me nuts, but at least he's useful at family gatherings because when I stand next to him, I appear clean and lively and bright in comparison. Not that I'm not clean, lovely, and bright, but he just makes me look so much lovelier and cleaner and brighter. I think Isabella could also testify to the problem with relatives, as could her brother or the worm swallower. Monday 9th. Dear Diary, are you even allowed to read tar on somebody? Isabella knows that Mr. Dayeon forgot to punish me for gluing a picture to her head, and so she dropped him a note reminding him. She retorted, "You can't read tar on him. Tell on somebody, can you?" I was pretty angry about it when I was called down to the office again to get lectured about the dangers of getting something glued to your head. Glued to you, and how not gluing things to each other was the glue that held society together, or whatever Assistant Principal Dayeon was going to say this time. It's my shoes, isn't it, Isabella? This makes me look 20 or something. Does the entire world resist resent my shoes. Could you believe them? We're missing a mean office lady now. Of course, when the other mean office ladies were out pricing a new carton or something, so I just walked right into Assistant Principal Dayeon's office, only to see the unmistakably glorious back of Angeline's flawless blonde head. For a moment, I found myself fantasizing about all the terrific punishments Angeline might be getting. Color of eyes medically changing from baby blind blue to baby barf. Gloria's mane of silken gold replaced with coarse tuft of bristles from warthog butt. No longer allowed to go by the lovelier name of Angeline, how her official legal name is changed something like canker sore or smear. But suddenly she turned around and she was wearing Assistant Principal Dayeon's old glasses, which magnified the pure beauty of her eyes that exact the same color of blue popsicles about a million trillion times. And this time I screamed a little because pure beauty was just never meant to be magnified that much either. My scream made her scream, and I stumbled backwards into the same counter that took out the mean office lady. As a self-trained ballerina, I could have easily recovered, except that these new shoes were a little slippery on the bottom, and I took it right in the head. Next thing I knew, they had given me the small cool thing to put on my head. The small cool thing is the absolute highest form of medical treatment they can give you at school. It is practically their version of the heart transplant. So I guess I must have hit my head hard enough to nearly take it off. They called my mom to come get me, but Aunt Carol came instead. I have to say, dumb diary, that Assistant Principal Dayeon and Aunt Carol sure were not weeping and wringing their heads fretfully the way I would expect to be wept and wrung over while I was almost dying. In fact, they seemed to be sort of, but this can't be true, chit-chatting. Emergency. Have to stop writing. Stinker ate something Mom made yesterday, and believe it or not, Mom's cooking actually smells even worse when you run it through the digestive system of an old fat beaker. Must make it to door, eyes burning. I'm not sure if she is going to make it. She inhaled a lot of pure dog stink. But thank goodness she left a note to put tubes in her nose. Those are totally gross looking. Tuesday 10th. Dear Diary, I had to sleep on the couch last night because Stinger committed that odor crime in my room and even thought Mom would actually just make me sleep in there anyway. I pointed out that the combination of beaker fumes and my head injury could be disastrous. I told her about this one girl I heard of from a different school that was camping and had to spend the entire night in a tent. Which an 11-year-old poodle that had eaten 4 burritos. When they found her the next morning, she's just a little pile of ash. I might have made part of that up, but Mom let me sleep in the couch, and since I was downstairs, I heard my Aunt Carol roll in around 11:30 and talk to my mom in the kitchen, where I expertly pretended to be asleep. Pretending to be asleep is just about the best way to eavesdrop, as long as you do it well. Don't squint your eyes closed too hard. Don't snore like they do in cartoons. I couldn't hear them very well, but it was all made it painfully clear to me this morning when Aunt Carol drove me to school and parked the car. This afforded me an early morning look at Miss Brentford, the lunchroom monitor, because she also monitors the parking lot in the morning and is there to helpfully tell people exactly where they can't park. This is earlier than I had ever planned to look at Brentford, and it was not agreeing with my crunch berries. But it got worse. Guess what, Jamie? And Kara says are happy in the voice that makes you worry because darts are this happy. You should worry. Assistant Principal Dayeon offered me a job that opened up in the office. I'm going to work at your school. Isn't that great? And Kara afflicted with typical adult dumbness. And Kara. I'm slowly shaking my head sadly as I write this part. There was a time when you would have understand that a person would rather bathe in a tub of hot dogs blubber than have a relative of theirs working at a school, but it looks like you're one of them now. And Kara, you're an adult. Yes, I lied, realizing that I was lying to Aunt Kara for maybe the first time ever. So I added, and I'm not lying to you. Adultness. Could it happen to somebody close to you? Social studies today, Isabella asked Mr. Van Dor, who never smiles, if there were any animals that who eat their own nieces. I have told Isabella all about Aunt Carol taking a job at the school. He listened a whole bunch, mostly to mean animals like crocodiles and sharks. But he said that among the higher primates, like chimps, the relationship between aunt and niece is particularly close. Too close. I would imagine for an aunt chimp to take an office job at her niece chimp's school. Poor Aunt Carol, again with the sad head shaking. She is not even a monkey anymore. Wednesday, 11th. Dear Diary, Isabella asked me today how Assistant Principal Dayeon had punished me on Monday. Isabella has already demonstrated that she is a reteller. So I had to make her believe I was punished. Because Isabella has me and older brothers. She is an expert on lying. Once Isabella has convinced a lunch lady that she had been diagnosed with a cake deficiency by a doctor and was medically entitled to an extra dessert. This may not sound like much, but lunch ladies are really sharp, especially in the extra dessert department. And talking one out of cake is a type of thing people write folksing about. So I said right back to her, what do you think he did? See, by doing this, I got Isabella to sort of tell me the lie she would believe. Detention? She said, yep. I said, I got detention. Ha ha, I fooled you, Isabella. Thursday, 11th. Thursday, 12th. Dear Diary, okay, you cannot fool Isabella that easily. It must have sounded a little too happy, or too sad, or that lie detector she had built into her butt was going off. But she did not buy it. And she retorted again and again. I was sent down to see Assistant Principal Dayeon, and now, even worse, my Aunt Carol would be there. But the office was unlike any office I had ever been in. The music office ladies was smiling. There was some music playing softly. There were some flowers, and in the spot where the butterscotch candies used to be was a great big dish full of little chocolate candy bars. Office ladies not being mean. Chocolate. In the center of the transformed office was my Aunt Carol, and when she saw me, she waved and grinned and said, "Jamie, hi Jamie, everybody, this is my niece Jamie." The mean office ladies look those ugly things that keep on the front of their head, where a face would normally go, and smiled at me with them. I had never thought it possible. Then Assistant Principal Dayeon came out to his office and showed me Isabella's latest memo. "Your aunt has told me about your friend Isabella. She is a reteller. I figure she is going to keep retelling me until you get punished. So how about this?" He dropped her note onto the floor. "How about if you pick that up and toss it into the wastebasket? Then you can tell her I made you clean the office." Amazing, right? His solution was kind of a lie and kind of truth at the same time. I've heard that if you made a money bang on a keyboard long enough, it would eventually write Romeo and Juliet. This means that even a monkey might accidentally do something that appears human. And I think that was Assistant Principal Dayeon was doing. Only kids know how to tell the truth and tell a lie at the same time. But Assistant Principal Dayeon actually did it right in front of my very eyes. So I smiled, picked up the note, and tossed it into the wastebasket before they ran out of candy bars, or the music stopped, or the monkey stopped banging on the keyboard. Are alerts just demoted beasts? Yes. Unless another adult is reading this right now, in which case the answer is no. Friday 13th. Dear Diary. Mom said that Aunt Carol is going to have a few people over in a couple of weeks. Mom called it a party. But of course, since adults are not fully formed human beings, it's not a real party. Aunt Carol was talking to Mom about some big date tonight, which was so gross to listen to that it was all I could do to keep eavesdropping. Me casually crouching outside the kitchen, and they would not tell me whom this big gross date was with. And Kira is attractive enough to be a bank teller, but she is almost as old as my mom. So her date could be with anybody who is A. more attractive than she is, but dumber. B. less attractive than she is, but funnier. C. the exact same level of attractiveness, but shorter. D. the owner of a hot car. Since I can't rely on Stinker to help me when I need him, I secretly fed him a can of beans at dinner so that he could again stink up my room in time for me to sleep on the couch. Now all I have to do is wait until the beaker lets one fly. And remember to be careful where I stand. Saturday 14th. Dear Diary. Seriously, how selfish do you have to be to withhold your odor from somebody? Stinker stubbornly refused to gas me last night, so I couldn't be down on the couch when Aunt Carol came home and eavesdrop about her date. Mom and Aunt Carol left early to go shopping, and everybody knows it. Shopping for Mom's appetizer stuff. My mom is an awful cook, and everybody knows it. My family, my friends, paramedics who had to come and save Dad from a lasagna once. But what some people don't know is that she can make appetizers, and she loves to demonstrate her skills to people. And not just those little cocktail weenies or frozen pizza rolls. She makes fantastically delicious little tiny things that people can hardly believe she made. It's like Mom would be a great cook if she only had to prepare meals for Barbies. She'll be one for alert to keep us out of them. Especially Stinker has been known to buy guests in the thigh to make them drop one. Since Mom was gone, Dad decided to get a jump on the projects he didn't finish on Sunday, but not finishing them today. I called Isabella to come over and watch the education channels, but she was shopping with her mom. Dad's project today. 1. Try to find hammer. 2. Try to fix wobbly table leg. 3. Try to teach neighborhood 40 new swear words. Sunday 15. Dear Dumb Diary. Aunt Carol and I hung around a little today, and it was cool because I felt that we were again as close as the aunt and niece chimpanzees, without any but problems, and Van Doy has us studying. We walked down by the park, and there were some guys there that were about her age. I think those guys were checking me out, she said, which was cute, you might think, but as she is my aunt, it was actually fairly sickening. Fairly sickening. I don't think I ever thought of Aunt Carol as being somebody that the guys would check out. I didn't think anybody that old was checking out anything except maybe books from the library or the subject like learning to live with those humongous moons on your back. Warning, adults get mad if you play the not dot to dot on their deformities. When I was a kid, I used to think that I would never be 10 years old. A double digit, the big one. Oh, but then it happened. I turned 10 and I realized that 10 wasn't that old. Sure, getting around was a little harder, going upstairs and stuff like that. But I still felt like a 9-year-old inside. I wonder how you are when people start checking you out. I wonder how old you are when they stop checking you out. I wonder if you're really were checking her out. Or maybe just checking them out. More than that, I wonder exactly how you perform a checking out and how you receive one. I'm going to make Stinker check me out and try to see how I look in the mirror while he does it. Shut up, it's not weird or to force your beaker to check you out. Probably lots of people do it. Here's how Stinker did it. Is this right? Monday 16th. Dear Dumb Diary, you remember Brentford? Don't you, Dumb Diary? She's the water buffalo that somebody trained to be a cafeteria monitor, and their job it is to make sure that everything in the lunchroom flows as smoothly and it's gravy through the grandma. Ugh, I think I just grossed myself out a little. I'm for sure of gravy for a while. Okay, that's the absolute last time I will ever use that description. Anyway, it was your basic lunch scene. Me and Izzy was in the hizzy, which means that I was there with Isabella. Although I'm not sure if it's to do privately here in the Old Dumb Diary because it takes a lot of time to recover from a crime against coolness. Dizzy Sorzi, Vizor, Vrexer. Like Isabella told me about this one girl that was actually witnessed with her actual finger and her actual nose. Look, I think that everybody puts a finger in his or her nose sometimes. And what a finger and nose do voluntarily in private in somebody's business. But Isabella says that even though this girl was publicly committed the third worst to know finger crime in public, don't even ask me about 1 to 2. And 30 years later, she was in prison for stealing a car. You'd probably have to be a movie star and holding 2 puppies to get away with finger crime number 3. Back to the cafeteria. Brentford, Isabella, the hizzy, remember? I was just minding my own business, walking in that way where technically you're walking, but your arm is running, but not really running. We are not allowed to run in school. Angeline said, "Hey Jamie," when surprised me because Angeline and I are not friends and can never be friends because she was born with the deformity of being all perfect, but I looked anyway, possibly because I was curious to see how much I hated her at that exact moment. And when I looked, I slipped on something. I am not saying it was a blob of hair conditioner, but Angeline, I know, abuser of some hair conditioner was in the vicinity. And all of my hours watching detectives on TV has taught me that the villain often lingers around a crime scene. I am not saying it was meatloaf, but cafeteria meatloaf is greasy enough to qualify as an industrial-grade lubricant, and some of it could especially have fallen from between those ugly flaps beneath Brentford's nose. I think she calls them lips. It's not saying it was my new shoes. It made me look 20 or something. But when I slammed into Brentford, I was going about 20 or something. So fast, in fact, that I think I may have actually plunged into Brentford a little. It was kind of like going underwater, like when this sound changes and you're weightless. But then I plopped out of a me-shaped indentation I had made in her, and the next thing I knew, I was in the office again preparing the excuse that was going to go in my permanent record. Aunt Kara is there in the office now, of course, which I figured meant that Mom would hear about it even sooner. I could imagine the scene pretty clearly. She'd be Remy smashed into Brentford today and got stuck in her a little. And it's one of the main things that indicates that she will probably steal cars and go to prison someday. Also, it's going to cost a lot of money to get the indentation smoothed out of Brentford. But that's not what happened. Our Aunt Kara did was read the note that Brentford had given me, smile and say, "Slow down, hotshot," and then she threw it into the trash. Just like that, the offense has been erased, almost like a miracle. "Don't you have to tell Assistant Principal Dayeon?" I whispered as I knew we were doing crime. "I'll tell him, it's fine, don't worry," she said, and she winked the same wink that Mom winked when she going to make something magically disappear before Dad finds out. Like the time I used his electric razor to make chihuahuas out of all my stuffed animals. That's exactly what they look like when you shave them. I thought about this all day. My aunt's power to make teachers' notes vanish, and I decided to never, ever, ever reveal it to Isabella. If Isabella knew that I had this awesome ability, there is no telling what she might do. For her own good and that of humanity, I do hereby swear to never tell any of this to Isabella. Tuesday 17th. Dear Diary, I told Isabella all of it. I know I may have said that I might not tell her, but I couldn't hold it out any longer, and it was the right thing to do, because I really don't think that she ever tried to make advantage of it, because all she did is a little smile, and then mutter something and twist her hands together. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything sinister. I've seen Isabella's baby pictures. She was born in this position. At lunch today, where Isabella and I were discussing who at our school should be crated up and dropped on an island far away. Angeline, who coincidentally was the first one we had crated up, squirmed over to me and did that thing where everybody grabs you by the shoulders and makes little stampy stomps and shake her head around and screams those happy, giggly, sure sounds that make puppies pee. You sort of feel like you've been playfully mauled by the really adorable grizzly. I don't know what the maneuver is called, but until you've had Angeline committed against you, you probably don't realize that it could easily kill a person who was not prepared for it. Homicide by happiness, gigglecide. Whip, 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 giggle, giggle, squeal, stampy, stampy, stampy. Shake, 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 shake. Fortunately, but with no explanation, Angeline released me and ran off, just like that. I wondered if I could turn on her for it. I mean, she did get her hair all over me. Start with a fragrant weapon, maybe. Utter shock, but noticed still a little bit pretty. As I tried to formulate the appropriate accusation across the cafeteria, I said something much stranger. I saw Aunt Carol talking to Miss Brentford. This alone would have been cause for alarm, but then I saw Brentford attempt to execute, and I truly think may have been gigglecide. Whip, 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 squeal, stampy, 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 shake, 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 shake. Is that even possible? Angeline, of course, is as weightless as a fairy, and her lustrous hair lusters all over the place in slow motion. But Brentford clearly does not have that relationship with the Earth's gravity. Brentford may be surprised to one day see a normal-sized cafeteria monitor in orbit around Brentford. But it was clear Brentford attempted the tiny little stamps. She tried flipping her head back and forth a little. She even made a squealy sound and made like puppies pee, but coming out of her, I think it was directed more at jacker puppies. This was gigglecide, and she was committing it against my Aunt Kara. Was she imitating human behavior the way a giant chimp in an ugly dress might? Mr. Van Doy did said that animals sometimes imitate human beings. That when she turned to look at Isabella, I could tell that she had seen the whole thing, and a smile crept across her face like thin wet tracks of creeping snail. Oh man, I think I grossed myself out again. Otherwise, I have grossed myself dead. Look up, nose, mirror, and flashlight. Grossed out for 3 hours. Convinced myself that spaghetti looked like veins. Grossed out on spaghetti for 4 months. Forgot to look away when parents kiss. Still grossed out, but it also makes me laugh a little. Wednesday, 18th. Dear Diary, Miss Anderson was late for art class today. She was even prettier than her normal prettiness, which is as pretty as a waitress. Today, she might have been as pretty as an ice skater or maybe even a circus lady. She looked over our college today, but she hardly noticed any of the details. In fact, our Miss Anderson really wanted to was her weirdest one in quite some time. I make a valentine card. But don't put anybody's name on it. It's not even close to Valentine's Day. Then she gave me a wink and said, I'm counting on you, Jamie, which made sense because I have made a valentine's that would make an ant fall in love with an aardvark. You are so lovely that I will not snort you up my nose. But then she also winked at Angeline, who had just turned in her barf pile of a college. As if Angeline understood even the basics of valentinology. Seriously, Angeline can do a lot of things, but her glittering skills are strictly amateur. Don't even get me started on her cotton balling technique. I think that maybe Angeline is trying to steal my favorite teacher from me. Can you do that? Leave it to Angeline to come up with a brand new kind of crime. Other crimes she committed. Assaults with intent to do bodily charm. Reckless eyelashery. Being super gorgeous and smart simultaneously. I thought we had all agreed to only do these at a time. Isabella apologized for retelling the second time, which would make it retelling. I knew it was a sincere apology this time because I know she sincerely wanted to take advantage of Aunt Carol's ability to make teacher notes sincerely disappear. She also admitted that she was sincerely jealous of my shoes. They made me like 20 or something. At first, she thought they were ugly, but when she realized how much I liked them, she decided she resented them as well. So she even bought a pair when she was at the mall with her mom. Wasn't that nice of her? We should cut her some slack. Going without sugar is really hard on Isabella. Yesterday, she even tried making an Oreo out of a couple of crackers and some toothpaste. And Carol wasn't at dinner tonight. When I asked Mom what was up, she said nothing. But she said it in that weird fast way that lets you know she was waiting for you to ask. She said that Aunt Carol was out on a date again, but she wouldn't tell me with whom. Watching Mom make her appetizer all day has been making Stinker extra hungry, so it was that he would gas me out of my room so I could sleep on the couch and listen in when Aunt Carol got home. But Stinker is stubbornly refusing to perform on odor, even when I gently sit down on him with all my weight. So I think I'm going to have to sleep in my room and not find out who the date was with. Thursday 19th. Dear Dumb Diary, Isabella and I were eating lunch today. Meatloaf. Meatloaf is what they always do to us on Thursday. They've tried to dress it up in the past, but it always comes down to this: chopped up cow, made more appetizing by shaping it like a brick. Some of the meatloaf makeovers they've tried on us. Meatloaf cones, carved into lobster shapes, lolliloafs. Isabella and I were complaining about it to each other when Isabella got an idea. She stood up with her tray and told me to follow her, and she walked right up to the trash where Brentford was standing. Isabella looked Brentford right in the eye and slid the uneaten meatloaf into the garbage. Then she grabbed my tray and did the same thing and waited. Dumping uneaten meatloaf in the garbage in front of Brentford is a level of taunting that even rodeo clowns wouldn't dare. Isabella's mean older brothers have forced her to learn to stand her ground even when she is afraid. So Isabella and Brentford heard each other stare for what seemed like a full minute until Brentford eventually looked away from Isabella smiled. The best rodeo clown that ever lived. Your Aunt Carol has some sort of claiming effect on Brentford, Isabella said. It's like when they put a little goat into a star with a jumpy horse. Isabella also said that because of this, we can do anything we want now, and she proved her point by drinking as much water from the water fountain as she could hoard. I told her that I don't think there were any limits on the water anyway. And she said, "Not anymore, Jamie, not for us." Slosh, 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 slosh. Eventually, Isabella was less thrilled about ultimate water. Friday 20th. Dear Dumb Diary, before class today, we asked Mr. Van Doy, the teacher who never smiles, about Isabella's idea that a goat could have a calming effect on a horse. He said yes, which surprised me, because often teachers don't know as much as Isabella, and many have not heard on the thing that Isabella knows to be true. Van Doy, who never smiles but impressively may know as much as Isabella. I was thinking about this and the evidence that adults are animals when the unpleasantness occurred. Now, before I tell you about the unpleasantness, Dumb Diary, you should know that I was not trying to get in trouble. It just sort of happened. Here is a transcription of the sort of the exchange, Isabella. So what sort of animal are we learning about today, Mr. Van Doy? Van Doy, I'm not quite sure. I've been very busy at home and got a little behind. Me, it doesn't look so little to me. It happened so fast that I hardly knew I had said it. Isabella's huge whooping laugh and cries of, "Oh no, you didn't," did not help things, and Mr. Van Doy sent me with a note to the office. Or, come on, it doesn't. Not a problem, right? And Carol will know what to do, right? Except that when I got there, and Carol was nowhere to be seen, only the office ladies were there. And even though they are actually smiled at me with real smiles, not the ones they used to give me and look like small rips on hard story, They looked not looking. They were not going to make the note go away. I was surprised to see Mr. Anderson walk out of Assistant Principal Dayeon's office. She was looking as pretty as ever, maybe even prettier, but not at all happy. "He's all yours," she said, and jabbed her thumb toward his office, and in a way that made me think she wished she was jabbing it toward his eyes. I got Assistant Principal Dayeon a note from Mr. Van Doy, and he seemed to be holding back a laugh. Adults did a lot, which is strange because who doesn't like to laugh? He said to choose my words more carefully in the future, and it wouldn't hurt to apologize to Mr. Van Doy and not mention the size of his behind anymore. He threw the note in the trash, and as my eyes followed it, I was a little valentine in the trash. I saw a little valentine in the trash. It was my valentine, the one I had made in art. My private glitter blend is impossible to mistake. I said, "How about lunch?" It said, "How about lunch?" out in it, on it in Miss Anderson's gorgeous handwriting. Miss Anderson used my valentine to ask Assistant Principal Dayeon for lunch. Can you imagine? I'm so flattered. Take that, Angeline. Miss Anderson is my BTF. I'm guessing, he said. No, and that's why she seemed angry. But there's the weirdest part. Miss Anderson and Assistant Principal Dayeon has worked together for years. Why would she give him a valentine all of a sudden? Why would she say no? He say no. Why did my glitterification skill and private blend do the trick? It's a mystery, all right. Mystified glitter artist. Glorious trashed valentine. P.S. Gave stinker beans again. I just know he is holding back on me. How selfish can you get? Saturday 24th. Dear Diary. Mom says that since Aunt Carol is living her little party at our house next Friday, and my room is where they threw everybody's coats, I should start cleaning my room. The process usually takes about 5 days. I don't like cleaning my room, but it is interesting to excavate down and find evidence of earlier Jamie civilizations buried deep beneath the visible mantle of junk. Dirty clothes, recent magazines, rejected shoe deposit, layer of the hobbies I was interested in for about 2 minutes, things I thought I lost in kindergarten, my old baby bottle, and teething toys, compost, Wasser, oil. Sunday 22nd. Dear Diary. Aunt Carol and I hung around today for a while. We talked about her job, which she says she loves. She says she loves the school and she works with and the whole wide world and the people she works with. Adults are disturbing when they love something. I fill her in about some of the people she works with since she's only been there a couple of weeks, and adults, like animals, must know the way their and little herds operate. I told her that the office ladies used to be mean, but now they are nice, and I think it's becoming because Aunt Carol is the substitute with her hard butterscotch candies with chocolates, or maybe she is a calming goat to them the way she is to Brentford. I told her that Mr. Evans, who is my English teacher, has a vein in his head that he can drop at you when he's angry, but like a poor elephant, he's more likely to just try to scare you out than gore you. Professor Dayeon, a valentine I had created while she was out of the office, and the other day in the way that a bird might offer another bird a big fat grub with glitter on it as part of the courtship ritual. Aunt Carol got all flustered and angry that I can only assume it's because she's strongly against birds. I mean, I'm no big fan myself, but come on, Aunt C. Here's how she changed. Maybe she's against Valentine. Monday 23rd. Dear Diary, Aunt Carol drove me to school today, and Brentford was patrolling the parking lot the way she does when she's not patrolling the lunchroom. And Carol stopped and talked to her while I went into school. This isn't the first time I've seen them talking. I can only assume that Brentford was telling her to park somewhere else to finish her meatloaf or some other dumb Brentford thing like that. Brentford also parked the school parking lot, or is this called skarking? Later that day, Angeline did it again. Gigglecide, the stomping and flailing, the puppy piece gears, the glasses. She slipped your aunt. She was mad at first, but this Friday, I'm not exaggerating the number of exclamation points here. And all I could do was try to defend myself from getting strangled by Angeline's mop of flower-struck golden stark hair the way you have to wrestle in a massive octopus that smelled like a green apple shampoo. Why is Angeline doing this? I could have been named by a flying exclamation point. I asked Mom that she thought about Angeline, but she was concentrating too hard on her precious appetizers and sipping on sinkers to keep him from jumping on the table to even hear what I had asked. All she could say was, I like Angeline. She's a nice girl. That was all I need to hear to know that she had no idea who I was talking about. Mom can fend off 3 fat dogs without interrupting their work. Tuesday 24th. Dear Diary, Isabella got in trouble 8 times today. She kept doing things just bad enough to get sent to Assistant Principal Dayeon, but not serious enough for the teacher to call the police. Isabella's rap sheet told Mrs. Palmer, the science teacher, that biology is the study of everything that is too gross to get into any other ology, and that's why she teaches it. Ran in the hallway, drew flattering pictures of Mr. Evans on the chalkboard, which alone might not have done it, but the hula skirt and coconut bra sure did it. Run in the hallway again, reminded math teacher that when microwaves were invented, paper was no longer needed to make popcorn over a fire. Now we have calculators, so it won't be long before we don't need math teachers either. Toy lunch ladies at their macaronis and cheese smell like the inside of an abandoned chicken coop. Ran in hallway again. And finally got into argument with Mr. Dover, our gym teacher, over doing laps. Isabella told him that we are not supposed to run in school. Obviously, she was taking advantage of my Aunt Carol's willingness to throw the teacher's notes away. She just wants to see how much she can get away with. I don't even know what even want to bring it up with Aunt Kara tonight because I'm embarrassed by Isabella. I'm gonna talk to Isabella about it tomorrow and ask her to take it down a notch. Isabella is lame. I know she'll take it down a notch. Wednesday, 25th. Dear Dumb Diary. Notch-wise, Isabella only knows how to go up. I tried to explain to her that she is overmining the natural resource of my Aunt Carol, and she keeps at it. It's going to dry up. One day, it might not be there when we really need it. Like if we were to put Angeline in a locker and word it shut accidentally. Recently, I learned how to word on the internet accidentally. Isabella doesn't care. She continued her crime spree throughout the day, and Miss Anderson even personally walked her down to the office one time herself. I told her that if she kept on doing, sooner or later she was going to get detention, and for a moment I got through to her because she stopped for a second and thought, detention. I was to apologize about Isabella to Aunt Carol tonight, but she's out on that date again, and Stinker still won't cut one. I tried him on cabbage and broccoli tonight. He can't resist anything because Mom's exquisite appetizers are driving him crazy. He looked at me like he's starting to inflate a letter. Thursday, 26th. Dear Dumb Diary, meatloaf. And not just meatloaf, also Angeline was at our table today. I had no idea why she decided to sit with Isabella and me. But Angeline can sit anywhere she wants. She is immune, it seems, from the roars of the lunchroom tables. There are a cool kids table, a jerk table, a computer kids table. You get the picture. Angeline sat down, and all friendly and playful she goes. Quit the little office romance, huh? I didn't know that she was talking about so. I said, yes, our assistant principal seems to be falling in love, she whispered. Angeline and meatloaf. Ugh. Isabella said, no, Miss Anderson is really coming on strong. Angeline might have gagged a little, but school meatloaf has that effect on most people. Miss Anderson, she said. Yeah, Isabella said. I've been up there 16 times in 2 days. And Miss Anderson is always up there hanging around, making excuses to go into Mr. Dover's office. She gave them to Jamie's valentine. In fact, she acts just like Jamie does when she tries to talk to Hudson. Hudson Rivers, you might recall, Dumb Diary, is the 8th cutest guy in the grade. And shut up, Isabella. And Angeline changed. I saw her wide blue eyes narrow. Her perfect nostrils flared into, well, they were still perfect, but they were somewhat less ladylike, and her internal smile flattened a bit into what must have been a scowl, but like a scowl a killer bear might give you. I was so happy. Can you believe how jealous she was that it was my valentine that Miss Anderson had selected? I guess you haven't stolen my favorite teacher from me after all. Angeline. When I looked up, I realized that Brentford has cidered bag up to our table. Was she just doing her normal lunch tour, or was she eavesdropping? I wondered, although I didn't have to wonder long, because I saw her glare across the cafeteria as Miss Anderson and happened to be breezing through in an especially pretty manner. Strangely, Isabella was looking at Miss Anderson with the exact same expression. I had no idea that two faces as different as theirs could even make the same expression. The bell rang and we all broke up, and I waited around for Isabella at her locker. But she never showed. Somebody told her that she got detention. This sugar withdrawal is really going badly for her. And Carol was gone again at dinner, and I asked my mom if she was ever going to eat with us again. And she smiled and said that she thought Aunt Carol would be getting her own place to live very soon, and she wouldn't be surprised if, after the party tomorrow night, we saw even less of her. It's more important than ever that I find out what's going on, and only Stinker can't help me. I fed him a can of beans and some frozen waffles to dinner, and I've explained to him how important it is he grosses up my room before bedtime. Looking at the clock, he only has a couple of minutes to go, and it looks like his bloaty little beaker is going to disobey me again. Front, back, side, top. Admit it, Stinker, you're full of gas. Friday 27th. The Eldam Diary. Isabella did get detention yesterday. I told her there was a limit to what Aunt Carol would do with teachers' notes. And speaking of teachers, my Aunt Carol's little get-together tonight caused actual teachers to be here in my actual house. I'm not kidding. We are teachers. It hadn't occurred to me that since Aunt Carol just started working at the school, it would be teachers and office ladies that would get herded through my private house. Like an orangutan, you just don't expect to see a live teacher in your house. I kid you not, Mr. Dover. It's gym teacher. His real name is Vendover. If you can handle it, was here and not wearing a whistle or carrying a clipboard or telling anybody to hustle. Miss Palmer, the science teacher, was here wearing a dress that was actually kind of flattering. I thought that was going to gross me out to write, but it didn't. But Evans was here, but his head vein wasn't. In many ways, he resembled a human being that didn't even have a big, old, ugly head vein. The office ladies were here, and they were not being mean at all, even though my mom was not handing out those little chocolate bars. I'm beginning to wonder if that mean office lady that was disabled was the one making him so grumpy. Maybe she was like an uncommon goat, like a goat that was always making little collars all over their barnyard. There must have been 15 teachers in my house, including Mr. Van Doy. Mr. wasn't smiling, but at least he wasn't handing out social studies homework either. The assistant principal Dayeon came in, and Aunt Carol, who I thought was not looking where she was getting slammed into him the way I crashed into the Brentford, exactly except for a huge kiss. I still can hardly believe it. It was one of the awesomely horrible type of kisses that is super gross and super excellent at the same time. Like two people trying to chew one piece of gum at the same time. My aunt and assistant principal Dayeon kissed. Nice gusting. We've always needed a word for things that are nice and disgusting at the same time. And this is right about where Isabella came in with Bunfold. Can you believe it? Hugh, in this big friendly voice, said, "Did we miss anything?" I looked at Isabella's hands, and they were furry. So were Bunfold's. I assumed they had been wrestling, but Isabella took me into the bathroom and fed me in. Isabella did get detention yesterday. Isabella said it only took a few minutes in the office before she could tell that Angeline had not been talking to Miss Anderson. She had been talking about Aunt Kara. Isabella said it was totally obvious that Aunt Kara and Assistant Principal Dayeon really liked each other, which explains the big smooch, and that she overheard Aunt Kara talking about the special party was going to be for her, and how she wished Miss Anderson wasn't going to be there. Isabella said that all the lovey-dovey stuff was a very good thing because it was working out so well for her personally. Excellent spy work. I didn't understand. I got it that Aunt Carol didn't want Miss Anderson at the party flirting with her assistant principal. But why was Miss Anderson even interested? She could have dated Assistant Principal Dayeon any time in the last 5 years. Why all of a sudden was she so interested now? Miss Anderson is an expert at scenting in pretty ways. Isabella pointed at our identical shoes, the ones that made me look 20 or something. Then I remembered that Isabella bought them. She only bought them because I had them. Miss Anderson was just like Isabella was with my shoes, except the assistant principal is my shoes, and Aunt Kara is me, and had the shoes in the front place. Angeline didn't really have the shoes for here. Anyway, Miss Anderson liked Assistant Principal Dayeon because Aunt Kara liked him. Then Isabella confessed why it's working out so well for her personally. She's been getting in trouble on purpose for the candy. Even every time she would go to the office and Kara would throw away the teacher's note, Isabella would grab a handful of candy. Isabella was doing crime for chocolate. She knew I was right about the detention, but she wasn't trying to avoid it. She was trying to get it. She figured that if she got detention, she can spend an hour or so in the office eating as much chocolate as she wanted. But as soon as she fully understood the situation, she needed to make sure that Miss Anderson couldn't break up her endless candy supply, and that meant keeping her out of the picture. Besides, Miss Anderson had rejected her decorated padlock idea in favor of Angeline's college, and Isabella needed to get even for her as well. Remember, that's how she roars. Oh man, I went away to roar. Isabella was not going to give up her chocolate. So this is why today, right after school, Isabella ran out to the parking lot, got down on her hands and knees, and crawled up to Miss Anderson's car. Her plan was to let the air out of one of the tires so she couldn't make it over to the party. But here's the thing, Brentford was already there, letting the air out herself. Why? Right, I mean why? You know why. You want to know why? Isabella asked her why. And you know what she said. Because Aunt Carol is her friend. For whatever weird reason, that friends like each other. The two of them just hit it off. It was like at first sight, Brentford did it for her friend. And in a moment, she and Isabella were just normal humans. They were two people who were doing a beautiful crime together. Brentford even gave Isabella a ride over to my house. Skip, 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 skip. Also kind of nice gusting. We came out to the bathroom just as Angeline was walking into my house, and her hands were probably for the first time ever dirty. And what was Angeline doing here, and why were her hands dirty? Fortunately, I had the assistant principal there to get the bottom of things. Where are you, Angeline? Why are your hands so dirty? I stopped her. Miss Anderson fixed a flat in her car. She said, oh, how that figures. Leave it to Angeline to help the enemy. So, where's Miss Anderson? And Carol looked into the tone that suggested she hoped an escaped tiger was involved. I guess I wasn't much a help. Angeline said, I lost the nuts, and we couldn't attach the spare tire to the car. Miss Anderson apologized. She said she would probably miss the party. Go wash your hands, Angeline, Mr. Dayeon said. I had a little announcement. Notice how the dirt looks a little cute on her. Isabella watched Angeline walk through the actual house, which was not full of actual teachers. When she got back, we found out that the little announcement was Assistant Principal Dayeon slid his hand around Aunt Carol's waist and said, I'd like to introduce you all to my future Mrs. Dayeon. Carol and I are engaged. Angeline went over and hugged Assistant Principal Dayeon and said, Congratulations, Uncle Dan. Uncle Dan? Angeline is his niece? It all makes sense. Angeline knew about this. She knew that I'm Aunt Carol's niece. Does that mean we are related? At the very least, we're no co-nieces. We're co-nieces. Mom said nothing can get under your skin like a relative. So did Isabella. Angeline and I are now cousins. Second cousins? Something like that anyway. Angeline will be my aunt's niece. As I am. Angeline knew all of this and was taking some sort of sick delight in it. I just knew it. My mom cried. Brentford attempted. Giggler side against Isabella, and this time it looked okay for some reason. Like it wasn't so weird seeing Brentford happy. Our teachers clapped and laughed and raised their glasses. Angeline came and stood next to me, and I think that she may have been doing it just to look clean and lovely and bright in comparison. From the moment on, I would never be able to be clean and lovely and a bright one at best. All I can hope for a second filthiest and not the dumbest. But it was as though nobody on earth could fully grasp the tragedy of me being related to Angeline, except maybe Stinker, who chose this exact moment to sum up how I was feeling by walking into the living room and cutting the fart he had been backing for 3 weeks. Poof! Grunt, doink. We had to run outside and watch through the window as Stinker ate the incredibly delicious appetizer off everybody's plates. He had planned this all along. I just didn't know it. Nobody was willing to go back into the house. Nobody could have. Or play the Stinker, the pungent skunk hound. I thought Mom was going to totally freak out. She had been planning this party for so long, and now all of her hard work was disappearing down a gullet of a beaker. But when somebody started laughing this loud, barking out of control laughter that just makes you laugh when you hear it, it was Mr. Van Doy. There was something about the house clearing a dog fart that finally got to him. Dog farts, that's right. That's the way, that's makes Van Doy smiles and laughs and made everybody else, including my mom, laughed. Which, considering how much time she had spent on her appetizer, was pretty amazing. I went over to congratulate my Aunt Kara. My heart wasn't in it, but she was so happy that I almost couldn't bring myself to say anything. I mean about Angeline. But I have a lot of word powers, so I did away. You know, Angeline was trying to help Miss Anderson get to your party today, and pretty lousy, don't you think? Trying to wreck your special moment, and Angela just laughed. She said, Jamie, the other day I was over at Dan's house, and Angeline changed the oil of my car. The girls know her way around a wrench. If Angeline lost the nuts, she lost them on purpose. Nuts. Then it became clear to me Isabella and Miss Brentford had slowed Miss Anderson down. But Angeline must have seen her changing the tire, and she'd make it here and spoil the moment for my Aunt Kara. So Angeline pretended to help and lost the nuts on purpose. She did it because she knew that Assistant Principal Dayeon and Aunt Kara belonged together. She wasn't made the other day that Miss Anderson had chosen by Valentine. She was mad at Miss Anderson was butting in. Although I still think she was partially motivated by being able to make me look bad. From now on, I have to make sure that my gruesome little cousin attends our family functions so that I can carry him around like an accessory. That's got to help a little. And his various colors of grime go with anything. Eventually, Miss Anderson did stop by and got a ride from the tow truck guy that came to help her with her car. She talked and giggled with Assistant Principal Dayeon and then Carol like nothing had ever happened. And since the tow truck guy was a total hottie, Isabella says that Miss Anderson is not going to hold a grudge against us. And let's face it, Isabella is an expert on grudges. I sat down on the porch and watched everybody mingle on the front lawn and laugh. I remembered when Isabella and I were trying to figure out if adults could become humans, and I finally realized that they couldn't. But I also realized that humans can't become adults either. There's how I see it. We all got mad, we all care about our friends, and we all have selfish sides. But animals have all those things too. The difference is that we humans laugh about stuff, and we laugh like crazy. It was Mr. Van Doy that made me ask the question, can adults become human? And it was Mr. Van Doy that helped me answer it. Here tonight at my house, everybody was a human. There were no adults. So exactly what are adults and where do they come from? I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure that I do not want to go there. Who would have believed that a beaker fart could open your eyes and make them burn at the same time? Thanks for listening, Dumb Diary by Jamie Kelly. Dear Dumb Diary, Can Adults Become Human? Author Jim Benton. The end.